Even in dark times, may we always lead with joy. Hi, I'm Christian Nielsen, and I'm so glad you've joined me again. This is my continuing series, Walk in Beauty, which focuses on spirituality, healing, and the arts, and whatever else pops up in life. Like millions of Americans, I watched the final episode of the Colbert show this past week, and there was a lot of sadness in watching that. But I also found that there was a lot of joy. See, Stephen called the show the Joy Machine, because in all of the work, the machine part of the show, they were constantly being reminded that their actual job, the point of this machine, was to spread joy. And Stephen quipped, the joy is important because it hurts less when your finger gets caught in the gears. And I actually think there's a lot there to be learned by people that work on creative teams, which I have done, working on hospice teams, working on and music ensembles, that if we remember that we are coming from a place of joy, the hard times we share with each other, and sometimes the hard times that happen when we butt heads, are buffered because we put joy first. I think that is a very good metaphor for what teams should do and for what we should do with each other. Near the end of the show, the final episode, I hope I'm not spoiling it for anyone, but it's been a couple of days, Jon Stewart appears near a portal that is opened up on Stephen's show. And he tells Stephen, he said, you know what, you have a choice. And of course this was meant in humor, but as good satire happens, there's a lot of truth to it. He said, you don't have a choice about going through the portal, but you have a choice. You can go through kicking and screaming, or you can go through doing what you have always done, Stephen. When you see dark things, you look at it and you laugh at it. And that's why satire is so important in standing up to authoritarianism. If we can't come from a place of joy and come from a place of making fun, if we can't do that, then we're in trouble. Stephen could have ended his show in many ways, but he chose not to end in bitterness. He chose joy. And as Paul McCartney and musicians, Elvis Costello and so many of the musicians that have been a part of the show joined together to sing Hello, Goodbye, the entire staff came onto the stage and filled it. It could not be more clear that this was a community of joy. And Stephen's fellow late-night hosts reminded him he didn't give up when Donald Trump was elected the first time. He didn't give up during COVID. He didn't give up during a lot of challenges. Through all of the tumult, he didn't give up and continued throughout those times, even when we were facing some really dark times during the pandemic, even when he was in some basement studio somewhere. He always led with joy. His joy is infectious, and the joy that came through the show was too, and it has led many to hope during these bleak times, and they have been bleak. And his joy wasn't forced. I don't mean joy when I'm talking about it in this false positivity, spiritual bypassing nonsense way that we so often hear. Suffering is real. The harms are real. The damage is real. The trauma and grief are real. The pain in our own lives is real. But joy can be held in that same space. From joy springs hope, and from hope springs action. We can make a difference, and it's okay to feel joy at the same time as we feel pain for ourselves or as we feel pain for our neighbors. In hospice work, I have seen joy in the face of death more times than I can count. And I'm actually on my way to go sing and play at a funeral right now. So I'm aware of all of the dark things that happen in life, but there can also be joy. I've seen a lot of suffering. And Stephen Colbert has been no stranger to sorrow and sadness in his own life. When he was just 10 years old, he lost his brother, his two brothers, and his father. He was only 10. And his mother died in 2013. He knows deep sadness. He told Anderson Cooper, "It's a gift to exist, and with existence comes suffering. There's no escaping that. But if you are grateful for your life, then you have to be grateful for all of it." His choice, his gift to alleviate suffering often comes in the form of joy. One of the fruits of the Spirit, if you've read the Bible. But it's a joy that was formed through sadness and loss. And in my experience, that is the most authentic joy of all. I think he knows that ultimately joy will have the last word. I'm reminded of the psalmist who said that weeping may tarry in the night, but joy comes in the morning. I believe Stephen lives out his faith, not just in God, but in the world, by planting seeds of joy and working to make them grow. In the face of all the current suffering and extreme injustice, we can easily become bitter and angry. And we have every right to be angry. But we can't overcome justice simply through anger. Archbishop Desmond Tutu, there's somebody who knows a thing or two about suffering. He understood this very well. During the apartheid of South Africa, he was there. He was present for so much suffering and oppression. He saw a lack of freedoms and even the murdering of his fellow black South Africans. Yet his activism always beamed with joy, proclaiming, "We shall all be free."
Black and white together!
Even when surrounded by soldiers that were about to attack his group of protesters, what did Desmond Tutu do? He laughed. He smiled. He welcomed them. He danced and he sang. And that is how he disarmed his opponents, through joy. Tutu once wrote, "It helps no one if you are sacrificing your joy because others are suffering. We people who care must be attractive, must be filled with joy, so that others recognize that caring, that helping, and being generous, these things are not a burden, they are a joy." Discovering more joy, he says, does not save us from the inevitability of hardship and heartbreak. In fact, we may cry more easily, but we will laugh more easily too. Perhaps we are just more alive. When we discover joy, we can face suffering in a way that ennobles rather than embitters. We have hardship without becoming hard. We have heartbreaks without being broken. I look at the the citizens of Minnesota, particularly Minneapolis, but other areas in our state too, during the ICE operations that happened in our state. That's a polite way of putting them. And in protest, quite often, we had the singing resistance. We chose song. We chose dance and love and community in response to the targeting of our neighbors. The leaders led with joy. You know, there's a strategic reason for that too, because you know what? It's really hard to label someone as a terrorist when they lead with joy, when they're singing. Reminds me of the prophet Isaiah coming from another time of deep suffering, assuring that there will be a time of justice when the trees will clap their hands, the dry lands gush with springs, the hills and mountains will be filled with singing. We shall go out with joy and be led forth in peace, as all the world and wonder echoes shalom. Peace. May the final Colbert be a reminder to us that in the face of darkness, joy is a powerful choice. Joy is something despots can never understand, which is why they fear it, and which is why they can't take a joke. May we go out into this messed up world with joy, to do the hard work of truly loving each other, healing the sick, lifting up the lowly, standing up for those who are oppressed, such as our black and brown neighbors, our immigrant neighbors, our LGBTQ community. Welcome the stranger, feed the hungry. And may we remember that joy is essential self-care. Don't let them grind us down. Don't let them steal our joy. And don't give up on hope. Joy is resistance. Through it, love wins. And the laughter will not die. May it be so. Walk in love. Walk in laughter. Walk with the weeping. Walk in joy, because these things are the path of beauty. Walk in beauty, my friends. Walk in beauty.
Light dawns on a weary world when eyes begin to see all people's dignity. Light dawns on a weary world wide wilderness reborn. Hope blooms in a weary world. The promised green of Eden comes. The tree shall clap their